With that, let's jump into the running backs love-hate edition. And, of course, yesterday we went in-depth on the Jonathan Taylor situation as we have during the week and what that means for Zack Moss. And we got to hear from Colts head coach Shane Steichen on his confidence in Moss for these next couple of games.
See how Connor leaned forward right there?
Obviously, when JT wasn't with us early in the season, Zach carried the load, and that's what we expect, going forward with him until we get JT back. I think he's very nimble. Like, when he's going through, he's very patient. He sees it. He presses the holes. And then when he does get out in space, he's able to break tackles and create those explosives, which is awesome to see. And he's been awesome for us all year, and obviously excited for him, these next, however long.
Been a great first year for head coach Shane Steichen, Jay. You and I were talking about this a little bit in a private text thread recently.
Another one. Matthew didn't get those notifications. Now, Shane Steichen's me. If I had to vote for Coach of the Year, and strangely I don't, but if I did, I think he might be my pick. This team is 6-5. They've so little talent. They lost the starting quarterback, and they just keep on rolling. They've dealt with the Jonathan Taylor saga to start the year, and now he's hurt. And here comes Zack Moss, who quietly has been basically just as effective as Jonathan Taylor. When he's been on the field, he's been really good. And so I think that they really shouldn't miss a beat in the running game. And they go up against the Titans' run defense, which is still good, but not the unit that it was last year, Matthew.
No, and that includes Zack Moss torching them for over almost 200 total yards and 2 touchdowns the last time he faced the Titans. They've allowed, by the way, a rushing touchdown in 4 of the past 5 games. Zack Moss comes in at running back 6 for me this week as well. In the games in which Jonathan Taylor has been out, Zack Moss has an 84% snap rate. He's averaging over 24 touches a game, over 120 yards from scrimmage in those games. Yeah, all aboard Zack Moss.
Next up here,
You've
Bijan.
been lost.
Yeah.
That's what he should do.
Yeah?
He should do.
He should.
When he scores
Claim
a
it as his
touchdown,
own.
he's, one of that.
Yeah,
that
do it,
whole
Zach. Do it.
Yeah.
Our next one here, Bijan Robinson, who is finally getting a bit of a commitment from Arthur Smith. Back-to-back games with 19 touches. We talked about it yesterday, guys. The Jets' run defense the last couple of weeks has been shaky. The loss of Al Woods. This defense is always on the field. And Matthew, that makes you a believer in Bijan this week against the Jets.
Yeah, you're always nervous that Arthur Smith is just going to try to get too cute, but there's at least some consistency. Back-to-back games, as we've talked about, with 19 touches. He had only 2 such games in the first 9 weeks of the season, which is sort of insane to think about the guy that the 8th overall pick was used on. But what's exciting, though, is they're starting to use him in the red zone, in the green zone. Last 2 weeks, he's got 3 touches inside an opponent's 10-yard line. He had just 3 such touches in his first 9 games. So they're using him more in the red zone and green zone. They're using him more in the passing attack as well. Jets allow 135 rushing yards to running backs over the past 3 games, to your point, Connor. So, yeah, Bijan Robinson should get at least 15 touches in this game. And as we've said, back-to-back games with 19 touches. And when he gets at least 15 touches, he averages over 18 fantasy points per game. Bijan Robinson comes in at running back 9 for me this week.
Yep, I like that. And a big thing, too, is that just being opposite Tim Boyle, you're very likely going to have the ball more often than the Jets do. The Jets rank 31st in time of possession. They only had the ball for 24 minutes against the Dolphins. One thing, though, Connor, is that the past couple of days, the team that has been eviscerated in the betting market by sharps more than anyone else? The New York Jets, who were down, I think they were 3-point dogs at one point. Now it's coming down to 1.5. So people in the market like the Jets, or at least like their ability to keep their close.
They don't like Desmond Ritter.
Yes.
That's literally what that is.
Yeah. It's a blockbuster matchup.
Much like everybody
Boyle,
that plays quarterback for the Jets, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, at some point Trevor Siemian, Desmond Ritter can also lose you any game.
Yes. No, I like that.
That's an interesting one, though. All right, our next running back here, Rashad White.
This is Daniel Hackett versus Arthur Smith. This is quite the...
Who could outthink themselves
Whoever
more?
wins, we lose.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Rashad White comes in on the love list this week. I feel like there's a trend here, Matthew, where if a running back has the Panthers on deck, that running back's going to be on the love list. So enter the fray, Rashad White.
Starting to figure out my secrets, are you?
Yes, I'm on to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Just because it's obvious doesn't mean it's not true. The fact is that running backs that have seen at least 15 touches against those Carolina Panthers are averaging over 21 fantasy points per game. In fact, 9 of the 10 running backs to see at least 15 touches against the Carolina Panthers have scored at least 1 touchdown. Right? 9 of 10. There's only one guy that can't say that.
It's 90% of them.
90%. Look at Connor doing math in his head. He's like a young Matthew Berry over there. And then what I will tell you is that Rashad White has had at least 15 touches. That's our magic number against Carolina. Rashad White has had at least 15 touches in every game this year but 1. So in a game in which the Buccaneers it's a divisional game. I don't think the firing of Frank Reich is going to improve the Panthers overnight. So I actually don't think Frank Reich was the issue. Yeah. Give me Rachaad White as a top 12 play this week. He is on the love list.
Yeah. So here's how bad the Carolina Panthers' run defense is at the moment. So in terms of efficiency, you're generally better off throwing than passing just because you can gain more yards by throwing the ball generally. But the Panthers' run defense is so bad that it's actually more efficient to run a running play against the Panthers than it is for Lamar Jackson to throw a pass. So that's how bad they've been. It's like you're better off just running the ball against Carolina than Lamar Jackson throwing passes. So they've been the worst in the league by margin. And I don't think, and the other thing too is that when you're opposite Bryce Young, you're probably going to have the ball plenty. So I think that Rachaad White should have a good game in a non-Ponzi scheme PPR type of way.
A couple others receiving votes here. Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, Devin Singletary. Some people call him Motor, Matthew Berry. So, Jay, both the Steelers running backs on here. How conflicted are you? Matthew has Warren, RB18, Najee, RB20.
Sacrilegious, Matthew, after what they showed last week. You still think Warren is the guy after he fumbled and Najee doubled his yards and got in the end zone despite having the same number of carries?
I think he's just more involved in the passing game here. Yeah, I mean, if I was placing an anytime touchdown bet, I'd probably put it on Harris over Warren, of course. But the fact is I have both guys as top 20 plays against Arizona. 142 rushing yards per game. That is what the Cardinals have given up over the last 4 weeks. In fact, teams facing the Cardinals over the last 4 weeks are averaging 31 running back rushes per game. We saw what Kyren Williams did to them last week as well. So I expect both guys to get a heavy workload. And yeah, Motor Singletary played 81% of the snaps last week, even though Dameon Pierce was back. No team in the NFL allows a higher yards per carry to opposing running backs this season than the Denver Broncos. They're giving up 5.8 yards per clip. Give me Motor Singletary. People call me Motor. People call him Motor.
Same skill set.
Very same skill set.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Very similar.
Yeah, nothing to add there from me.
All right, then we'll go to the hate list. It's led by Joe Mixon against Jacksonville. Matthew, Joe Mixon still a top 20 play this week, but the matchup not so great for him, especially in a Jake Browning-led Bengals offense.
The fact is, the matter is that I still believe this, right? You still need to start Mixon. I have been running back 19 because there's 6 teams on a bye. But I would lower expectations against the Jaguars, who have allowed the fewest rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. Jaguars have allowed only 3 touchdowns to running backs in 11 games this season, and one of them was Kyle Juszczyk. So I mean, like, it's just tough. I mean, again, KJ. I would lower expectations for Mixon. I'm just barely inside my top 20. Not crazy about, you see it there on your screen with the Jaguars, the fewest rushing yards allowed to running backs. I think that's key. They faced a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and they've given up some yards. So if you're looking just rushing yards total, but in terms of just specifically to running backs, they're the best defense in the NFL. So Mixon on the hate list, but again, you're probably still starting him.
8-point dogs as well in that game, so probably not a good game script.
Not great. All right, tonight's game, Zach Charbonnet, we talked about it earlier.
I had a moment there. Because I have these, I write all this stuff overnight, right? I write it and it's in there, but I have like notes here just to sort of refer to. And like, you ever like when you're super tired and you're just like, the wheels turn, but like slowly, like there's kind of cogs. And so I'm sitting there going like, and I'm starting to read it and I'm like, Cam Hayward doesn't play on the Jaguars. Hey, that makes no sense. Wait, hang on. Cam Hayward's on the Steelers. And I just talked about Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris on the Steelers when they play Arizona, but Joe Mixon is on Arizona. So all this is like going, you know what I mean? Like just
it's like Wolf of Wall Street. When he takes a very certain something on the plane.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And then, right, that was me driving was it a Ferrari? Driving whatever the car back, like.
Yes. Yeah. The internal wheels and synapses of Barry.
Yeah, exactly.
Frightening to think about what's going on
Hayward,
in there.
Yeah. No,
Joe Mixon.
Yeah. And the issue is like it's all gummed up with popcorn. Yesterday was free popcorn day here at NBC. So
classic Wednesday.
So anyway, it's all gummed up with.
Think of your brain swimming around in a pool of diet soda as well.
It's probably.
I'm sure that you've had so much over the journey that it makes its way upwards instead of downwards.
I would think so. Yeah, it's a mistake. Anyway.
So back to Zach Charbonnet. No Kenneth Walker. We'd think. I mean, he's doubtful for tonight here, Jay. Charbonnet. You don't love this matchup with Seattle. They're 9-point dogs. They got Dallas. They're at Dallas. But Charbonnet needs to be a volume guy involved here, but makes the hate list, I would assume, for Matthew because of some of that matchup concern. Yeah,
tough matchup. They're almost 10-point underdogs at this point. Geno Smith seems like he's still banged up potentially. So Charbonnet's going to have to do it through just falling into the end zone and then I think also getting receiving work or just breaking a run as well. And he can do that. The Cowboys have a good rushing defense. It's not elite, though. It's not a top 5 rushing defense. So I think that Charbonnet is still a play as a flex low-end RB2 just through volume, but I wouldn't be expecting 100 rushing yards.
He's running back 22 for me, so I have him in the exact same place as well. One of the concerns, though, is, hey, volume will get him there, and hey, he's going to, even if they're down, he's their third down back. He actually only played 54% of third downs last week.
Yeah.
So that was the other concern, is that, so going against an elite Cowboys defense as well, they've allowed 78 yards from scrimmage, which isn't a ton, but they've allowed more than 78 yards from scrimmage to only 2 running backs this entire season. So Charbonnet just outside my top 20. I hope I'm wrong on this one, because I have to start Charbonnet in a league in which I'm decimated running back. I'm starting him actually in 2 leagues because of bye weeks issues in one and injuries in another, but I'm not hopeful.
Our last one here, James Conner. He has Cam Hayward's Pittsburgh Steelers, Matthew.
See, that's what I was thinking about, right. Look, this is a guy that hasn't seen a snap rate above 70% since week 5. That was another one where I was just like, wait a minute. I know Joe Mixon's – that's the whole volume. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of Diet Coke and popcorn in there. Anyway, week 2, that was the last time James Conner had a snap rate above 70% as well. In the 3 games since returning, he's had only 44% of the team's goal line carries. They've actually brought in Clayton Tune a few times to do kind of the brotherly shove, the tush push as well. Pittsburgh, since Cam Hayward returned in week 9, they're top 7 in the NFL in terms of rushing yards and yards per carry allowed to running backs fewest, obviously. So it's a good run defense. Conner isn't involved in the passing game. He's a 50-50 shot to get any goal line work as well. In a game in which I think the Cardinals struggle to move the ball, he's running back 26. Again, you may not be able to turn down the volume because he will likely get 15 touches in this game, but again, lowering expectations.
The other thing too is just Kyler Murray runs the ball himself a lot. And I know Josh Dobbs was manning the offense and he runs too, but not as much as Kyler Murray. And so Kyler Murray, particularly at the goal line, and he's already done this, is going to steal touchdowns from Conner.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.